I don't see witches with pizza. I see witches eating chili. Yo. It's fire, dude. Yo, dude. I am here today to show you how to make my chili, which is spiced chili with many beans and some greens, aka Halloween chili. I think you should try it this year because it's really nice to eat like a bowl of comforting chili on a cozy night, like Halloween. In my head, it's just like what you do. It's been a year, almost 1 full year since I made this recipe because I made it for Halloween last year. I really did. I brought it to my friend's house and we had chili and there were trick-or-treaters. It was perfect, iconic. I'm using ground meat and beans. And I know that like there are chili purists in the world who are gonna say, Texas style, only cubed chuck or whatever. I'm just like not a chili purist. I don't think I'm a purist in the way I cook at all. So I'm using ground beef and I'm using chickpeas, not classic. Black-eyed peas, I don't know if those are classic. Great northern beans, aka cannellini beans. This is a very loosey-goosey chili. The flavors are like not classic, okay? Another thing we're gonna talk about in this recipe is the beauty of dried mint. So if you've cooked my recipes before, you've probably seen me call for fresh mint in a lot of like salads and savory applications. But then there's dried mint and it's like a totally different beast from fresh mint and has a time and a place, and it is cooked into this chili and then it is like sizzled out in oil and used as like a drizzly topping. And for me, it's what makes this chili like very special, unique, different, not your grandma's chili. Okay, step 1 is do some prep, as always. I am cutting 2 red onions into like large chunkers. 1.5 of them is going into the finely chopped vegetables that we're gonna sweat out into the chili. And then 1/2 of one of the onions is going to be set aside and we're gonna quick pickle it. And that's gonna be a topping so that we have like a bright, zingy, pickly moment and a sweetened caramelized onion moment in the recipe. We've got a couple of inches of ginger. We've got the cloves from 1 whole head of garlic. And then we're gonna throw them all into the food processor and just blitz it up that way. I'm not trying to puree this, I'm just trying to break it down so that we've got like a nice fine chop. The next thing is that we want to drain our beans. So this recipe calls for 3 cans of beans, and the whole thing that's great about this recipe is that it's like infinitely rippable. So if you want to make an all white bean chili, go for it, get 3 of those. If you're like, I really love chickpeas, get 3 cans of chickpeas. And so I'm gonna drain them, as you do, and just give them a quick rinse. Let's talk about the ground beef and how we're gonna get it caramelized. What I like to do is just to like break it up into large, shaggy masses. So basically like big ass meatballs that aren't tightly bound. Press them together. And then I'm gonna season them all over. So think about like seasoning a burger. We're seasoning the meat all over. And then we're gonna go to the stove and we're going to sear these in meatball form before we mash them up and turn them into the chili. Step 2, sear the balls. I'm gonna put a good amount of olive oil in this pot and get it nice and ripping hot. Because these are formed into balls and they're tall, we're not like flooding the surface area of the pot with meat, which would crowd the pot and create steam, which would prevent browning, which is what we're looking to do here. So this helps us to ensure that we get brown bits all over all parts of our balls. So this process takes a while. You don't really want to fidget with them. Let them caramelize, turn them occasionally. It's like 8 or 10 minutes. While that's happening, I'm going to grind my spices. I like to work with whole spices because I think they're more flavorful. So I'm putting a tablespoon each of coriander and cumin into this little mortar and pestle. This way they kind of release their stuff, you know? Like they got stuff inside and it needs to be released and we're pounding it out here. Okay, so we're setting aside the balls, and now to all of that yummy beef fat and the juices and the drippings, we're gonna add the onions, garlic, and ginger. Look at that. Oh my God, it looks so good already. Like it's starting to already get like saucy and jammy. So then we're gonna just cook that for like 15 minutes or so. While the vegetables simmer, we are going to quickly pickle this reserved half of an onion. So I'm gonna thinly slice it. And then because this chili has apple cider vinegar in it, so like it's part of the sort of braising liquid, I'm gonna use that same vinegar to just lightly pickle this onion. So I'm just gonna scatter some apple cider vinegar over it and then scrunch it with a little bit of salt. And then just a pinch of sugar to balance the pickle. And then I'm just like scrunching it together. And this is gonna sit now for like 2.5 hours while this all melds together. So it'll have plenty of time to pickle, but you can just like give it a little toss. Turmeric, cumin and coriander seed, some dried mint, and I'm saving some of this for later on. And we're toasting the spices in the beef fat, and then we add harissa. The sizzle is an indication that the harissa is frying in the leftover fat. So if you're not hearing that like crackle, keep going. Everything else is kind of just like a dumpy dump. So we're gonna dumpy dump all the rest. I'm gonna deglaze what's happening here in this pot with a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, and that's just gonna introduce acidity to balance out like the beef fat and the oil and everything that's like very rich that's happening. And then we add back in our shaggy beef balls. You find your potato masher or a wooden spoon, and you're gonna go in and just like mash the beef up and break it up into smaller pieces. And this is how we get it kind of like move away from the meatball form and get it into chili form. And now we're adding frozen spinach and 3 kinds of beans, chickpeas, white beans, black-eyed peas, and then 1 14-ounce can of cherry tomatoes plus their juices, and 3 cups of chicken stock or water or beef stock or veggie stock or whatever you have that's yummy. Look how pretty. It looks good, huh, already? 2 bay leaves and a cinnamon stick. No. And then that's literally it. Then it comes to a simmer and we cover it partially and we just like set it and forget it. And in 2 hours, the meat will become very tender and break apart, and all the flavors will meld and the spices will bloom. The tomatoes will burst and break down a bit and it will turn into chili. I have a version of this that was made yesterday that cooked for 2.5 hours that we're gonna swap now so you can see what happens 2.5 hours later. So this one's gonna go on the back and we'll cook that for the rest of the afternoon. And then this one's coming up and here's what it looks like afterwards. Very cooked down. Tomatoes have broken apart, so they're kind of like one with the chili. Spinach has darkened and broken up, and it's like thick and feels like it wants to be put into a bowl and eaten on a stoop amongst trick-or-treaters. That's witch's brew right there. The toppings for this chili are not, what's typical? Like tortilla chips, shredded cheddar cheese, sour cream, avocado. No. This is sort of like a Middle Eastern-ish world chili. So I'm taking the rest of that dried mint and I'm putting it in a skillet with a bunch of olive oil. And we're just going to sizzle it out until it starts to get really fragrant so that we have this really powerful, flavorful mint oil that we can just like drizzle over everything. We're over medium heat. This takes 2 or 3 minutes. It can burn and we don't want to burn the mint leaves at all, so it's just until you start to see like little bubbles at the side of the skillet and you'll start to smell it and then we'll pull it off the heat. Here's the thing about chili and soups and stews in general. Just because I wrote a recipe and I was like, okay, and then simmer it for 2.5 hours, doesn't mean that you shouldn't taste it and adjust it at the end. And you should feel empowered to make those changes and make the chili yours, because it might just need like a little something. I'm gonna take my pot outside and wait for trick-or-treaters who aren't coming for a month and a half. This is honestly so cute and I love that I'm gonna get to do this year. Just me and my chili. And then salted yolk. I get a bunch of pickled onions, a spoon in my pocket for my sizzled mint. And that's the chili. Chili's bomb, there's that too. It's so like fragrant and spiced. It's a real spiced chili, if you will. Chili for the boy? Yeah, okay. Yo. It's fire, dude. Yo, dude. That's it. Chili, bye.